Well, it's good to see you all. I've got some folks still coming in. Really good to see you. Nice that you're here, and welcome to all of you who are on the live stream. I see that there's several of you. I tried to greet you all in the chat, so if you wouldn't mind saying hello back so we know who's here. It's always nice to share greetings with one another back and forth. So those of you who are here today, I'm going to ask you to just sing super loudly. Perfect. I know you can handle it. We welcome back Samantha and Mitch. So we met you about a month ago.
Yeah.
You're back leading worship again, so we're glad to have you back. Thank you both for doing that. And Robbie, as always, thank you. So we're going to start with a really fun song, a really happy song. In fact, I think it's called Happy, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is one that Samantha suggested, and I listened to it, and it's a really, really fun song. So it's high energy, so what I'm going to ask is let's all stand up, and it's a pretty easy song, I think, to learn. Pretty straightforward song, and so let's sing along and put our whole hearts into it.
You can clap, too. I won't clap, but...
You make me happy, you make me whole. You take the pain away, I'm so in love with you. You make me happy, you make me whole. You take the pain away, I'm so in love with you. You make me happy, you make me whole. You take the pain away, I'm so in love with you. You make me happy, you make me whole. You take the pain away, I'm so in love with you. Everything about you is right, it covers all my wrongs. Your love saved my life. Everything about you is right, it covers all my wrongs. Your love saved my life. With you is where I belong. You make me happy, you make me whole. You take the pain away, I'm so in love with you. You make me happy, you make me whole. You take the pain away, I'm so in love with you. Everything about you is right, it covers all my wrongs. Your life saved my life. Everything about you is right, it covers all about you is right. It covers all my wrongs. Your life saved my life. Everything about you is right. It covers all my wrongs. Your life saved my life. With you is where I belong. I'm so in love with you, can't make it without you. I live to worship you, forever me and you. I'm so in love with you, can't make it without you. I live to worship you, forever me and you. I'm so in love with you, can't make it without you. I live to worship you, forever me and you. I'm so in love with you, can't make it without you. I live to worship you, forever me and you. Everything about me is right. Over the mountains and the sea, your river runs with love for me. And I will open up my heart and let the healer set me free. I'm happy to be in the truth, and I will daily lift my hands, for I will always sing of when your love came down. Over the mountains and the sea, your river runs with love for me. And I will open up my heart and let the healer set me free. I'm happy to be in the truth, and I will daily lift my hands, for I will always sing of when your love came down. I could sing of your love forever. 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 And oh, I feel like dancing. It's foolishness, I know, but when the world has seen the light, they will dance with joy like we're dancing now. I could sing of your love forever. 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 I could sing of your love could sing of your love forever.
So in the time that we sang some songs together, a few folks online have said hello, so I want to send greetings from Janet and from Jill and from Cheryl, who's online with us. Can you all hear me? Oh, okay. Let me repeat that. In the time that we were singing, a few people said hello in the chat, so I want to say hello from Janet and from Jill and from Cheryl, who all said hi. Hi all. Hi everyone. Hello all. So. This is our time of prayer. Your opportunity to come on up to one of the two microphones here, share your prayer requests with us. There are two mics here in the room. If you are worshiping with us online, please feel free to put your prayer request in the chat, even if it's just a first name. And I can go ahead and repeat that for the folks here in the room and also for everybody on the live stream. So come up as you feel led and share your prayer requests. And during this time of prayer, if you're here with us physically, feel free also to light a candle if that's something that's meaningful for you as we pray.
Well, school started today, and as usual, it doesn't always start off without something happening. Bessie is on one corner, and I'm on the other doing crossing guard. Unfortunately, Bessie was stung by a bee, and she is allergic to bees. And so one of the parents came up to me, and she says, "I'll watch the kids, you take Bessie home." I can't leave my corner. I said, "I'll get someone else to take Bessie home." So one of the parents came by, and I know she knew Bessie real well, so she did it. She took Bessie home, and Bessie did not have her, what do you call that, EpiPen? Didn't have it with her, so she had to go home, and must have been too long in between times when she should have been using it and when she did, because it didn't work. And so she went to the clinic, and they put her in emergency. So she may be home now, I don't know, but she was in emergency for a while at UW. And so I asked prayers for Bessie. Hopefully she'll be okay. And another student, well, I shouldn't say another student, a student, third grade student got stung also. So 'tis the season. So as for those teachers and students starting off to school and with some difficulties.
Yeah, definitely prayers for our teachers and students, but really everybody, support staff, including crossing guards, everybody who is starting school. Yeah. So many people, administrators involved in that as well. And also prayers for parents as they send children off to school.
I would like to also ask for prayers for health and healing for my mother.
Yeah. Yes. Sure, yeah.
Mitchell and I actually lost a close family friend this week, and he was an older gentleman battling dementia, but we were pretty close with him, Mitchell especially, and he played a huge role in Mitchell's music career, and neither of us would probably be in Madison if it wasn't for him, so he's definitely in our thoughts. Yeah. He's very, very religious, and this is where he wants to be, and he's wanted to be there for a long time, so we're happy for him, but definitely on our minds.
Yeah, absolutely. Prayers for your family friend. several people who, I think, Paul, you mentioned this last week, who are recovering from an injury or procedure, surgery. So prayers for all of those. Some of those do not wish to be named, but specifically prayers for Rhiannon as she recovers after a procedure, and she'll need an additional procedure as well for some internal bleeding.
I have a prayer, couple of prayers. One is I'm supporting kindergarten at our school, and it's often kind of a joyful time for kindergartners, but occasionally it's like not what they want to do. And so just be in prayer for those kindergartners who struggle on the first day. And the other prayer I'd like to say is, my mom gets a lot of joy from her cat, Katie, and that cat had some dental surgery where they removed a lot of teeth. And so just pray for my mom and for Katie, and that cat will be okay.
Jill asks also for prayers for R and Mary. As is usually the case, we all have different needs from time to time. There are times of joy and celebration, there are sad times, there are times when we're angry. We go through these range of emotions. They don't all hit us at the same time. So our prayer requests can be, of course, joys as well. And I want to just acknowledge, I found this prayer that's in the form of a poem, and I want to acknowledge that not all of our needs are the same, but they are all, we shouldn't make assumptions, right, about everyone's need being the same. But they're all valid, and we need prayer for all of those situations. And so I hope that you find some meaning for yourself in this prayer. It was actually written by Martin Wallace, and it's slightly adapted here in this form. So I hope you will join me in prayer. As we walk down this terraced street, where all the houses seem to be from a common mold, and each door looks the same, it would be easy to be mistaken and assume that those inside each house are from a common mold. But we know, O God, that each household has a different story of happiness, heartache, and health, of wealth, weariness, and worry, of sadness, solitude, and sickness, of energy, encouragement, and excitement. We see pictures of biblical villages with square white houses all the same, when the same assumption could be made. Yet, Jesus, you cut through all of that and treated everyone differently, giving different commands. Follow, return, give away, be reborn, tell everyone, keep silent. Keep us alive, O God, to the special uniqueness behind each door. Amen.
Scripture reading for this evening is from Luke, chapter 19, verses 1 through 10, about Jesus and Zacchaeus. He entered Jericho and was passing through it. A man was there named Zacchaeus. He was the chief tax collector and was rich. He was trying to see who Jesus was, but on account of the crowd, he could not, because he was short in stature. So he ran ahead and climbed a sycamore tree to see him, because he was going to pass that way. When Jesus came to the place, he looked up and said to him, "Zacchaeus, hurry and come down, for I must stay at your house today." So he hurried down and was happy to welcome him. All who saw it began to grumble and said, "He has gone to be the guest of one who is a sinner." Zacchaeus stood there and said to the Lord, "Look, half of my possessions, Lord, I will give to the poor. And if I have defrauded anyone of anything, I will pay back 4 times as much." Then Jesus said to him, "Today salvation has come to this house, because he too is a son of Abraham. For the Son of Man came to seek out and to save the lost." It was hard not to break out into song here. Let us take a moment to reflect on this question. What is Jesus asking of us?
While I get this ready, I'm going to give our musicians a time to escape from the chancel if they want to. And I need a mic manager. Somebody who can take care of just passing this around. Thank you, Paul. So, I'm really glad you brought up the song, right? Do we all know that song? Right? This has to be a really familiar story, right? Bible story, the story of Zacchaeus. You probably learned it as a child if you grew up in a church and you know the song. Do you remember the song? Yeah. What's the first line of it?
Little man was he. He climbed up in the sycamore tree, for the Lord he wanted to see. Yeah. And as the Savior passed that way, he looked up in the tree, and he said, "Zacchaeus, you come down, for you're going to my house today."
That was incredible. I hope you are going to be signing up for the choir, first of all. And second of all, I love that not only first of all, I didn't realize there were hand gestures, but that you remember those too. So thank you for that. That enhances any song, I think, right? So something that I find really interesting about this, as I was reading a little bit about this story in a commentary, and this was sort of just an extra piece of information that didn't necessarily make it into Sunday's sermon. There are a few things that we know about Zacchaeus, right? So we know that he was not just a tax collector, but the chief tax collector. We know that the Bible refers to tax collectors often as sinners, and sinners in that context really is a label for anybody who abuses the most vulnerable. We've been talking a lot about loving God and loving neighbor, and how all of the law, all of the commandments boil down to essentially those two things, right? If you're motivated by love, that is the right way forward, if you're ever confused about that. And so tax collectors collect taxes on behalf of the Roman Empire, and often those who are the most harmed by that are those who are poor and can't really afford to pay the taxes, but guess what? They're charged those taxes anyway. So tax collectors become the villain. They become that cog in the imperial system, in the Roman Empire, who are doing harm to their neighbors. That is what they refer to as sin. And so what I think is really interesting in this commentary is the author, by the way, one of my seminary professors, who is a feminist scholar, has written for this wisdom commentary, which is a feminist commentary. It's a fairly new one, and I love it. Her name is Shelley Matthews, one of my favorite professors. And she writes this about some of the details in there that are in the song, right? Like the wee little man. So the story, why is it so important that we know that Zacchaeus is so short in stature that it's almost this comical situation where he has to climb up into a tree? And he's so excited to see Jesus and connect with Jesus that he almost acts in a childlike way. Like he has to get closer to Jesus. I can just picture this scene and how comical it is. And she notes, Dr. Matthews notes, how this is really written in a very comical way. And it talks about how he sort of is kind of squirrely. He darts about. He doesn't walk in a dignified manner. So all of these descriptors in the Greco-Roman world, they're on purpose. They make him out to be somebody who is shady in some way. So there's this judgment. And we posed the question earlier, what is Jesus asking of us? And what I mean by that question is, what is Jesus asking of us in this story? And I want to ask you that question because I think that there are several right answers. And I have a few of my own that I'll tell you about in a little bit. But I want to hear from you, what is the message for you in this story?
Jesus shows love for the sinners, and he showed love for Zacchaeus, even though he was a sinner, and he does for each of us as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're focusing a little bit on Jesus as the more central character in that interpretation, and that's a great message and completely legitimate, right? And again, there are actually multiple, believe it or not, multiple lessons that you can take from this, which I love about Jesus' stories.
Well, Zacchaeus, he was very high position.
Yeah.
Then he was chief, not a position. He wasn't just thinking about come down from the tree. Well, he was talking about come down the position. That's what. So he was, when he was in that position, he was a small guy.
Yeah.
But when you come to Jesus, he was giant man. He can. That's over.
A metaphor in there, he's in this tree and Jesus says, come down, and what you're saying is it's not just come down physically from the tree, it's you're this chief tax collector, come down here to where the people are. Humble yourself in a way. Yeah, that's great. That's not one that's on my list. I'm going to have to add it. That's a good one. I like that too. See what happens when we have these discussions about these stories? We see things that we may not have seen before.
So I heard a biblical scholar interpret this passage once, and he said that the antecedent of the pronoun is actually ambiguous. And so Zacchaeus could not see Jesus because he was short, meaning that Jesus was short.
Oh, interesting. So,
but I think that biblical interpretation was just kind of a throwaway thing, is more of a one-liner than a real.
There are some things in whatever original languages are, and of course there are different translations, and we have different sources that scholars try to piece these translations together from. Sometimes our translations are imprecise, and that further complicates stories that already don't have a clear meaning, right? Translation really matters in interpretation. So that's another interesting way that story gets flipped on its head. Yeah. Anyone else? Yeah, Paul.
As Christians, Jesus is our role model, and I've read some discussions of this passage that really went on about just how thoroughly tax collectors were despised in that era. That tax collectors weren't paid by the Romans directly. They just were expected to take a cut of the taxes.
Yeah.
And they often took way more than they should. And so they were just universally hated. And, in our culture, I mean, we're not in love with the IRS, but
Sure.
it's a whole different level.
Yeah.
But the role model in this situation gave him a second chance,
Yeah.
and sought him out.
Janet and Jill have very similar takes on this too. So Jill says that everyone can change and has some good inside. That was one on my list as well. And Janet echoes that with God's help, it's not too late to change. So never too late, but the emphasis also on with God's help. Think a little bit more. I want to get back to this, but I'm going to ask you at the end what this story means for us and how we should act. So think about that a little bit while I go through a couple of thoughts that I had about this. So the first is what Jill and Janet have just said is about redemption. If you center Zacchaeus in this story, Zacchaeus has a change of heart, and he wants to rectify the harm that he has done. He wants to give back to the poor, but also if he has defrauded anybody, he says, if he has defrauded, does it say if in the translation? I think it does. So if he has defrauded anybody, and it sounds like he probably has, then he will compensate those folks extra, right? So there is that idea of redemption. We can change. If we have done harm to somebody, we can make that right. There's also this question of, and we've been wrestling with this, we say love your neighbor, but who is our neighbor? Is the tax collector our neighbor? Remember, the crowd gets angry with Jesus because Jesus is going for a meal, to share a meal with what the crowd is calling a sinner. They get angry about that. Do we often get angry about associating with people that maybe others, maybe even other Christians, think we shouldn't be associating with? So is there grace for everybody? Is there love for everybody? Or are certain people excluded? I think that's a question that we have to answer. That's how we figure out who our neighbor is. The final thought that I had also was, Dr. Matthews writes something really interesting in here, and I want to read this. And this goes with what some of you have said too, as Zacchaeus is this representative of imperialism. And so this is what Dr. Matthews writes. Luke also leaves a key question unexamined. Can one remain a chief tax collector while following Jesus? Even if Zacchaeus is generous with his wealth, should he continue in his official position? He is still a collaborator with the Roman Empire in extracting wealth from those he taxes, many of whom suffer from that extraction. That is, he remains a cog in the imperial wheel and an agent in the suffering of others. Of course, she doesn't answer the questions for us. She just poses the questions, but I think it's a good question. What happens when we are aligned with a power? What if that power maybe is, or that influencer is maybe the church as an institution, and we help that institution do harm to others, to discriminate against others, to exclude others? We don't show love for our neighbors. So, what do you think? What's the message in here? What is Jesus saying to us? What's the message for you, for each one of you? I ask it as a rhetorical question because I want you to think about it, but if somebody wants to answer it, feel free. It's a hard one, isn't it? Yeah. I think for me, I don't have an answer. Maybe you don't either. But I think that this story is a reminder that we have to center love in everything we do. Love of neighbor, love of self, love of God. If that is our motivator, and we get angry with people, we get frustrated with people, I get that. But when that happens, take a step back. Be reminded that a person that is in your face, maybe that is saying something unkind to you or treating you unfairly, is also a human being, is also beloved by God. And as hard as it might be, yes, we have to show love even to those neighbors. That's hard, I know, but it is necessary. And so for me, I think it's a reminder to just remember the sacred worth of each person. And to think of people not also as individuals, also as groups of people. We talk a lot about those who are most vulnerable, who are most marginalized, that it is our job to stand up for them. That is part of our Christian witness, and that is also how we show love to our neighbors. Those are the two things that are challenges for me. I hope they are for you as well. And so here's what I'll do. I'll leave you with this question. What is this story calling us? What is Jesus calling us to do in this story? And if you think of something and you want to share it with me later, feel free. Or if you want to share it with a neighbor, feel free to do that too. And so I'll ask our musicians to come back up. We'll do a couple songs, and then that'll let you think a little bit more about that question.
Higher than the mountains that I face, stronger than the power of the grave, constant in the trial and the change. One thing remains. It is higher than the mountain that I face, stronger than the power of the grave. They were constant in the trial and the change. One thing remains. Your love never fails and never gives up, never runs out on me. Your love never fails and never gives up, never runs out on me. Your love never fails and never gives up, never runs out on me. Your love, your love, your love. On and on and on and on it goes. It overwhelms and satisfies my soul. And I never ever have to be afraid. This one thing remains. Your love never fails and never gives up and never runs out on me. Your love never fails and never gives up and never runs out on me. Your love never fails and never gives up and never runs out on me. Your love, your love. confident and covered by the power of your great love. My debt is paid. There's nothing that can separate your heart from your great love. Your love never fails and never gives up, never runs out on me. Your love never fails and never gives up, never runs out on me. Your love never fails and never gives up, never runs out on me. Your love, your love, your love. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength. With all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. I will serve the Lord with all my heart, with all my soul, with all my mind, and with all my strength. I will serve the Lord with all my heart, with all my soul, with all my mind, and with all my strength. With all my heart, with all my soul, with all my mind, with all my strength. I will serve the Lord with all my heart, with all my soul, with all my mind, and with all my strength. With all my heart, with all my soul, with all my mind, with all my strength. With all my heart, with all my soul, with all my mind, with all my strength. I will love you, Lord, with all my heart, with all my soul, with all my mind, with all my strength. I will love you, Lord, with all my mind, with all my soul, with all my, and with all my strength. I will love you, Lord, with all my heart, with all my soul, with all my mind, and with all my strength.
Well, that was a lot of fun. Thank you so much, all of you. That was excellent. Thanks for leading us in worship. For all of you, feel free to stick around. We'll have some time of fellowship, chat a little bit, and be good to just catch up and find out what's going on with everybody. For those of you who are online, if you want to use that virtual Zoom option, that's open for you on Thursday evening. So feel free to hit that Zoom room button in the live stream platform. And you can have your own fellowship Zoom time as well. So I want you all just remember as you go through your week, love God, love neighbor, don't forget to love yourself as well, and go in peace.